So at the beginning of it, I'm living in the countryside in a sort of one-horse town, back in uniform. But then by the end of it, by the end of the fourth one, I buy the flat that the character lives in for the rest of his days. So that's kind of the trajectory across it. Across that, you've got 4 different worlds, very specific worlds in which we inhabit and tell the story of obviously someone who's a murder that's been taking place or a crime that's taken place, and then we solve with a load of, you know, individual character stuff, relationships going on throughout. Yeah, by the end of it you do, and I think that's kind of one of the driving forces of it, you know. After Fancy died, everyone's scattered to the 4 winds, and so it's about bringing everyone back together and finding out who is responsible for that by the end, you know.
Sounds good.
And everyone's different reactions to it, the level of responsibility and guilt they feel because of it, you know. I think he's taken responsibility for it, but is kind of pretending that he's not. Classic. It's good, visually it's really different. And also it gives us the opportunity to have a different set of lads and a different set of officers in there who bring a very specific vibe with them, which is something we haven't seen before, and allows us to rub up against them in a very different way, which I think is good. It brings out new things in the characters, Thursday, Bright and myself, so yeah, it's good.
It expects a lot of internal conflicts then?
Yeah, exactly, and also between the new lads as well, and we've got 2 brilliant new actors as well, Simon and Richard, who do a terrific job. So ultimately for them, they've got a new group of lads joining their station, and it's about them incorporating or not incorporating us. Also, the degree of responsibility they take for the overarching story is kind of this drug story which is going through, which is what Fancy is related to, and the death of Fancy is related to, and their level of culpability with that. So that's kind of what's happening over the 4 of it. Yeah. I wouldn't say modern, like, part of one of the joys, I think, of telling something in period is that you can't just send a text or send an email, that you have to get off your arse and do and think, you know what I mean, and actually get out and interact with people. So it's not modern in that regard, but they're doing things in a different way from what we've seen before.
So it's not.
I mean, regardless of whether we make 3 or 4 or 6 or whatever, or even just 1, you're still given the opportunity to tell a story in that amount of time, to create a world which is the characters then go and inhabit and then leave. So, yeah, each one we try and make as individual and as specific as possible, you know. Yes, it was good. To be honest, I've been directing for a few years, but it was the first time I'd done anything that I was in, and something which is... yeah, it was the first time I'd done anything that I was in, and something which I knew so well as well, where you have a shorthand with the people, both the cast and the crew. So that was, yeah, it was extraordinary actually. I felt very lucky to have been given the opportunity to, and it was an incredible experience. It was an incredible experience. It was a couple of things, a couple of reasons. I think one of the things was, if you think about taking responsibility for Fancy and not being able to look at himself in the mirror, is one thing, to get away from the past. Also to push it into a new direction, into uniform, somewhere where we've never seen him before, and then out of uniform into a completely different sort of style. It's good for the viewer, but it's good for the story, but it's also, it stops you, me. If you do something for a long period of time, it could be easy, I think, to begin to pull it towards yourself, you know, and I think it's good to just keep pushing, even if it's something as facile as change of costume or change of style or change of, you know, facial hair. I think it's important to keep so you're still always doing your work. Something like this is a team effort, and so there's many opinions in the pot. The writer feels one thing, execs, producers, the ITV feel another thing, I may feel something different. I personally think it would be interesting if they did get together, but then woke up the next morning and was like, this isn't going to make me happy at all, you know? There's something about that which I think is kind of just interesting rather than a will they, won't they. But like I say, in this one we don't, so who knows how and if it will pan out.